Hi everyone, my name is Liz Punshon and I'm the Managing Director of People to People Recruitment in Victoria. It's my pleasure to welcome you today to our Australian Market Update. On today's show, we'll be running through a couple of key topics. So, are employers overlooking Australia's greatest untapped workforce? This week, we are joined by Nadina Benvenisti, resume writer and career coach at NB Career Consulting, to unpack the growing conversation around ageism in the workforce. Also on today's show, why are payroll teams struggling with staffing shortages? We'll explore our latest job opportunities across Australia. And lastly, we'll reveal our social media insights. We are asking if Aussies are accepting counter offers in 2025. But let's jump into the main topic of today. A recent report revealed that 1 in 4 HR professionals in Australia now classify workers aged 50 to 55 as older. Just 2 years ago, only 10% of hiring managers took that view, suggesting that many employers are now sidelining experienced professionals in an economy suffering skill shortages. With nearly a 15% rise in employers steering away from older job seekers, it is possible that we are overlooking Australia's greatest untapped workforce. But more importantly, why are hiring managers steering away from an older workforce? To discuss this further, we are joined today by Nadina Benvenisti, resume writer and career coach at NB Career Consulting. So welcome today, Nadina.
Hi, Liz. Hi, thank you for having me to talk about this very pressing topic.
Absolutely. Can't wait to hear your thoughts and insights. So first of all, why do you think ageism remains so prevalent in hiring practices today?
Well, I mean, ageism has always been a part of hiring practices, and there is obviously bias against older people, and there's misconceived ideas of older people. I think when we look at recruiters and HR professionals, a lot of people are younger, so a lot of people who are doing the hiring process or starting that hiring process are a younger generation and are automatically drawn to their peer group. Why are we seeing this dramatic change in the last 2 years? I mean, that's quite concerning, and seeing that people are saying that people who are in their 50s, not in their 60s, are considered as old. I think there's a couple of reasons for this. If we look at technology, obviously that there's been a big changes in technology. So, we've had revolutions where we've moved to the cloud. We've got a lot of SaaS applications. There's a lot of different new technology people are using. And that's always been a challenge for the bias against older workers. People feel that they're not as good as using these tools or learning new tools. One of the major reasons I think for this is because we're about to go through a huge evolution in the workplace, where we are obviously going to be changing the way, or we already are changing the way we're fundamentally doing things. And we're going to be doing so much more, so much more is going to be tech driven. And I feel that number one, there's the bias about the learning the tools, but also that ability to change and pivot and remain agile in an environment that is fast changing. I feel that that's a distraction and incorrect. We'll talk about that a bit later. The other thing, when you look at the demographics of people who are recruiting and working in HR, these are people that they've grown up through the GFC, they've grown up through COVID, they've been really marked by those events. And they're in a world where we hear about, we can't get anywhere, you're never going to buy anywhere, global warming's destroying the planet. And I think, this might be a bit controversial, but I think in general that there is a bit of a feeling in some groups that, the baby boomers and Gen X are responsible for the destruction of society. And I do think that might be playing out as well a little bit in that they're seen as sometimes, not responded to some of these problems. And so that might be a cultural thing impacting it too.
Yeah, so many good points there. And the fact is, the reality is we are going to be working longer because we're expected to live longer, and the cost of living means that we inevitably can't retire when, unfortunately, as you say, the workforce is essentially shutting us out from that opportunity later in life. So What challenges do you think older job seekers commonly face when they're trying to re-enter or progress in the workforce?
So I think, and actually I think it's a quite important point as well, is that I think people that have stayed in the same role or the same organisation for a very long period of time have more challenges than people that have moved jobs on a regular basis through the workforce. And what I see in my business is I will see people that have maybe worked in the same organisation for, 15, 20 years. And so they're sort of caught in an area where they know what they know the skills that they've learned in that organisation, they know the software they've learned in that organisation. And then, they're seen as, employers don't like that. Employers do want to see that you have, moved your career and worked in different organizations and shown that ability to learn from different environments and different ways of doing business. That's one of the challenges. But I think also one of the other big challenges is that, older job seekers are lacking the skills to job hunt in the contemporary market. And maybe they're job hunting like they used to 20 years ago. And that's obviously changed quite dramatically and is changing rapidly, even as we speak today. And then there's other, challenges where, like I say, people think that they won't be able to learn the skills, they won't be able to apply, to learn new skills, to be agile in a workplace. And then another one of the big challenges older job seekers have is they're either deemed overqualified or underqualified for roles. And quite often people, when they are, some people when they're mature, they are, still really trying to progress through the ranks and are ambitious. But also a lot of people are saying, well, you know what, I've taken over the world. I've achieved a lot in my career. I really just want to work and do something that really resonates with me. And then they have challenges where they feel they're overqualified. And they feel that they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yes, I hear what you're saying there. So, and I've been with people to people for over 17 years, so I think loyalty is something to be proud of. But I understand that it can be a barrier as well for older workers. So, what are some of the biggest misconceptions employers have about older workers?
Well, the agility and the ability to change. I mean, if you look at, my generation is Gen X, and the changes we have gone through over the decades that we've worked have been astronomical, and we've had to respond to those changes with agility. I think that's one of the misconceptions. Another misconception is the ability to learn new skills and to learn new software and to perform in an environment. That's also a misconception. A misconception is that, people feel that older workers will be slower, may not have the great memory to be able to recall things. And again, that's a massive misconception of older workers. So I think they're kind of some of the sort of key areas is that, employers feel they either won't be as ambitious or as agile to change or able to learn new skills. And then one of the other misconceptions is that, again, if you take somebody who's worked for 30 years, had a career for 30 or 40 years, and, you're a younger manager in your early 30s, having, somebody who's older, who's maybe got many more years experience, will be hard to manage in the workplace. Trying to tell you how to do your job or push back because you might make a decision and because they've got lots of experience they might be obstinate and try and push back on some of the decisions you make. And again, I think that's a big misconception out there.
Yes, absolutely. Stereotypical in that sense, isn't it? So what do employers risk losing out on by overlooking these experienced professionals?
Wow, they missed out on so much. First of all, you've got that knowledge and that wealth of knowledge and that skill. Now, as we go through our careers, obviously you've been in recruitment a long time, and I'm sure when you worked in recruitment, as I did when I was young in my sort of mid-20s, I was a high performer. I did really, really well in my job. But as I matured, I learned a lot more from my experiences, and I managed to avoid the risks. I could coach and mentor other people. I could make more strategic decisions. We risked losing that kind of knowledge base. And actually, particularly now, I think it's even more essential because we are going to be moving to an environment where digital tools are going to be doing so much more for us, and people will be, skilled at writing prompts, but will they actually understand the process without having somebody else do that for them? And I think that if you're using an AI tool and you are really skilled in writing the prompts or using that AI tool, but you don't understand the process or you don't understand the environment without using the AI tool, how can you challenge that tool, or how can you make those right decisions, or how can you handle problems? So I think that even more now than ever, we need to retain those skills within the workplace. So there's the knowledge. There's also, the reliability. People are a lot more loyal. We talk about people staying in a company a long time, but I'll do a CV for a graduate and then they'll come back to me in 10 months and go, I've got a great role, but I've done really well at it. I want to move on now. I know it. And they're really eager for that next thing. Whereas older workers tend to be a lot more reliable. They don't necessarily want to change job every year. The lack of emotion, I have some friends. I have a number of friends who have been very, very senior roles in business, and as they're younger, there was a lot more emotion involved in decisions. I think those emotions are much more tempered. I think people are a lot more level-headed. But yeah, the reliability and that experience. There's just a wealth of benefits of doing somebody who's older. But most importantly, Liz, one of my beliefs is that good teams are made up from people with different backgrounds that have, commonalities. What you want is you do want a diversity of ideas or approaches to solving problems. And I've always been a very big believer that, you want young people in a team, you want older people in a team. It's really important to kind of have that spread because, a good team is complemented by people with different strengths and weaknesses.
Yes, here. And you're spot on in terms of that life experience piece, and the younger generation are, I guess you could say, are spoiled, but also very used to utilizing AI to even just proofread work or help with those thoughts and ideas. But the older generation doesn't have that luxury, so they wouldn't. I guess it's good to have the balance of both, isn't it? So, so what advice or strategies would you offer older job seekers who are looking to re-enter the workforce or find a new role, but are facing those challenges due to ageism?
Okay, right. So first of all, the key is to be strategic about your job hunt. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, that skill of job hunting is something that people sometimes don't have. So the first thing is to do your research, to really look at the sort of jobs you might want to be targeting on the market, and to see, are there any gaps in your skills? It might be technology or different skills. A great way to do this, because I want to make this a bit actionable, is you can put your job advert into AI, ChatGPT or another tool, put your CV in and ask ChatGPT to give you, help you understand where there are any gaps and how well matched you are for the roles. So really it's just identifying what roles you should be targeting first of all, and what your goals are around those roles. If there are gaps in your experience, we do live in an amazing time where, there are so many tools out there to address those gaps in knowledge. You can use LinkedIn Learning, or, there's YouTubes on lots of subjects. There's lots of really good resources if you do need to update your skills in one area. So the second area is your CV, which is really important. Now, I'm sure that, you probably recognize this, Liz. Quite often, you can tell somebody's age by just looking at their CV, the resume that they send you. It's dated, it's written in an old-fashioned font, and it shows that they went to high school in the 80s. So it's really important to make sure that your resume is up to date. It looks contemporary. But the one thing that I think people miss on their resume, and this is something I do a lot with my clients in my business, is you know, they put their job descriptions on there and it looks like a position description. So you look at the resume, it doesn't tell us anything about who that person is. And I think it's really, really important to look at making sure that your achievements are on there and they're very, very clear. And quite often people don't understand what their achievements are. They might say, well, you know, I don't know what my achievements are. But, you know, it's about reflecting on your career, what were the biggest challenges you've overcome, maybe times you've supported change within your organisation, times you've had to upskill in your organisation, times you've supported, you know, different initiatives, you've come up with different ideas. I think it's really important to make sure that that resume talks about what you can bring, because with any of my clients that are suffering, you know, resistance in the market, because I work with people that have ageism or maybe skilled migrants or other people that have got resistance against the market, one of the key areas is really making sure that that CV shows, you know, why they're skilled at the job and what makes them good at the job, so that the recruiter can really engage with it. And again, now, you know, you can use AI to look at helping you with this. It's really important, though, to make sure that you're not using AI to write your whole CV, because recruiters can pick that out and people are screening those CVs out. So using it as a tool, so using it, you know, you might want to set, like I say, you can see how suitable it is for an advert, what are the gaps, you can get it to write your bits, but just be really careful that it needs to be, feel that it is your CV and you have written that and it's got the right keywords in there. The other areas around that is, you know, if you're competing with the younger people in the market, we do have to meet the market. So it's about, for example, making sure your LinkedIn is up to date, making sure you're engaging on LinkedIn, you know, using LinkedIn as a tool to go and network, maybe make direct approaches to companies that you're interested in working in, and direct approaches to HR or line managers can be really valuable as well. Direct engaging with recruiters and building those relationships. So it's really looking at making sure you're targeting the right jobs in the market based on your skill set, and then making sure that your marketing information is up to date, and then making sure that you're networking and doing some of those other things that are really going to help put you ahead in the game.
Yeah, such good advice there. And I would echo that. If you're utilizing AI, which is so brilliant that you can, it's you need to be able to back it up in an interview, or if you do get a phone call. So you want to make sure that it is accurate and it does align with what you have achieved and what your responsibilities were in the workforce prior to. Yeah. So thank you so much for your insights today, Nadina. Really enjoyed catching up with you. So if anyone would like to connect with you, what's the best way to connect with you from here?
LinkedIn, I guess. Yeah, so LinkedIn, if you look for Nadina Benvenisti, you'll find me on LinkedIn. Yeah, that's probably the best way, I reckon.
Fabulous. Okay.
I'm always happy if people are having real challenges in the workplace. I mean, I work directly with clients. I've done recruitment for many years and worked directly with them as a coach. But I'm also more than happy. I quite often give people, you know, advice and tips that they can use that are actionable and complimentary. So, you know, I'm always happy to answer anybody's questions if they need any help.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you so much. Yeah, really enjoyed the chat today. So
thank you very much.
Great. Next up, we'd love to look at the stat of the week. So why are teams struggling with staffing shortages? So Interesting to hear that 92% of payroll teams are struggling with staffing issues. So the top challenges being high workload, lack of resources, burnout, and outdated systems. 1/3 of teams have open vacancies, and many feel are under-resourced. AI and tech seem as both a solution and a concern. Over half are using or exploring AI, and training and system upgrades are critical to managing risk and reducing stress. Payroll is now a strategic function, not just admin. Payroll is one of the accounting and finance functions that in our market and salary report this year, you can get a full recap of that space along with all of the other areas that we specialise in. So if you would like to speak to one of our team to get a copy of the latest salary and market trends report, please connect with us and we'll arrange that for you. You can see on your screen now some of the hot jobs that our team is working on this week. So this is a handful of all of the jobs that are across our businesses. So you can always go onto our website and check out what other vacancies are available to connect and apply to the consultants that are recruiting those positions. But that is it for this week. So thank you so much for joining us. As I said before, if you do need any support with your job search or also to support your team with any hiring needs, please connect with us on the details that you can see on your screen. But thanks again, and we'll see you next week.